Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quest, a journey into true crime and the paranormal. My name is Misti Gaither, and I am so thankful to be your host. And I'm also thankful to have my guest tonight, Miss Aida. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Now, those of you who do not know, Miss Aida, she is a author, a spellcaster. She is also a witch. You know, we were talking earlier about how that I found out about you, and I discovered you on. I discovered you on the Discovery Channel, and it was on Steve Shippey on the shock doc called the Michigan Hell House. And Steve and Cindy had asked you to come there to see about what you thought or and what you could do about a witch that was, had been there 50 years ago or so, and had caused a lot of havoc that was still going on Dice Road in in Michigan, close to Saginaw. I was really impressed, and then I also saw you on another Steve Shippey film. It's called The Haunting of Adam Street, which takes everyone behind the scenes of his haunted museum in Saginaw, and how, he has a lot of haunted items, and especially these two older, weirder looking dolls that he wanted you to check out. So let's talk about that for a little while. And I was just so impressed with you. And one of my first adjectives that came to my mind when I was watching you is like, she isn't. She means business, like you were focused. You were like, look, you were just like, no, I'm here to do this job, and I'm just laser focused, and this is how it's going to be. So tell me about, let's talk about the Michigan Hell House just for a moment. We saw how you came in, and the circle that the witch had danced in 50 years ago, and it was still like the ground was totally different from the other
Right,
parts of the lawn. And
right.
so, what was your feelings like when you first walked onto that scene?
When I first, because they edit a lot of
Sure.
things out, right? And it was so completely different. It was like I felt entrapped and I felt just a little dizzy and nauseated. And of course, they're not going to say this on camera. And I was like, I mean, they're not going to film this, but I was terrified that it was a radiation circle. I mean, the first thing that crossed my mind was, I hope something didn't crash here,
Right.
because if it's something from, a UFO or something like that, they bring a lot of radiation, right? And so I said, it's either a portal or a fairy circle, because there are evil fairies also, right?
Right.
Or it's radiation. And my biggest fear was the radiation. So I have to tell you, when I got out there and closed the portal and that feeling went away, I was so relieved. I was so, everybody's relieved that I closed the portal, and I'm relieved that it wasn't radiation.
Now you had
But
even
it was completely different once
right.
I closed it. It was like normal, right? But when something's imprinted in the ground like that in a perfect circle for all those years, you know, I'm a nurse, I have a master's degree, and I'm going to always, whether I'm doing psychic readings or anything, I always try to rule out the scientific explanation first. And with this, like I said, that it was a perfect circle. I mean, I
Yeah, yeah.
can begin to explain to you how perfect this circle was. And stepping out and stepping in, it was a little bit of a relief that it wasn't radiation, because I still would have felt something outside of that circle, right? If it was radiation. So, I lean towards that evil fairy circle or a portal. And luckily, I shouldn't say luckily, but luckily it was a portal. So
Well,
yeah,
you had said like you had consulted a demonologist
yeah,
to do the to do your ceremony the most perfect way as you could, effective
right.
to close it. And I mean, you came out, you had like the was it like the statue of Saint Michael or Saint Gabriel or someone, and then you
Saint
like
Michael,
Saint Michael, and then you had like the sword, and I think it was the
Iron
sword, the
Cross. I
Iron
had an
Cross. That
Iron
was
Cross.
it. Yes, and I mean it was just so moving to me, and it kind of brought home to me that you can never be too protected.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
you were like, look, if this starts, even in the haunting on Adam Street, you were talking about, look, both ways. You were like, do not be scared to spray me with this holy water, or whatever that it was. And you're
Right.
like, don't try to, hold back if something starts, because you said it tries to attach in the top of the crown of your
It'll
head.
attach to the crown and to the neck. That's
Hmm.
where how they enter. And a lot of times, I don't know if you've seen these images where they capture things on, when they do that fancy stuff with the camera. I don't know the terminology because I'm not a camera person, but I've seen demons hanging out on the left side of a person,
Right.
when they blow it up or whatever they do. So if you're bothered on your left side, most likely it's something of a mischievous nature. And then if they attach, they enter through the crown of the head and the back of the neck. But you have to be very careful. And what I'm not sure if they set it on, if they allowed it on Adam Street, but Vicks Vapor Rub has camphor in it.
Right.
Right? And they wouldn't let me say that because it was Vicks, it's a
Right.
brand name, and
Right.
but my head is, and the camphor has two purposes. Okay, it protects you and it also deters negativity. So the back of my head is also has Vicks Vapor Rub on there along
Okay.
with my, and I tell clients a lot of times, when they're sleeping, they might be attacked by something. And I always encourage them to rub themselves with Vicks Vapor Rub before they go to sleep. And every single person I've ever advised this to, it's worked. It's when they get lazy and don't want to do it anymore, it's when they start having trouble again.
Because that's what happens. You don't like evil spirits, demons, however that they are. That whoever refers to them, they're wanting you to slip up and not be vigilant. They're
Right.
just they're there. They just bide their time and they're just waiting. You're like, well, I won't do it tonight, or I'll double up tomorrow, or whatever someone thinks when they're having that problem. But you have to be, from what I'm finding out, is you have to be consistent. You have to, you know, consult people such as yourself who know what they're doing, and give good advice on how to deter evil spirits, because once something like that enters into your world, into your life, it's hard to get rid of, and the
Right.
damage that's done is so
Right.
vast. You pick up the pieces, I'm sure, for years.
The problem is you have to give it an invitation, right? So, but what's an invitation? Their idea of an invitation and my idea of an invitation and your idea of an invitation are different.
Right.
So I always, I wrote a book called Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic. And, I talk about this. Don't engage in any conversations. So if you're seeing something in your house,
Mm-hmm.
don't engage in any conversations because they view that as an invitation. If they knock on your door,
Mm-hmm.
knocking always occurs in threes because they're mocking the Holy Trinity.
Right.
So you don't open that door because once you look through the people. once you open that door, they view that as an invitation. So they view a lot of things as invitations. And whereas you and I would say, well, welcome, or they don't view it that way. And a lot of times when one is trying to do an exorcism, which, I've done before, what will they say to me? You invited me. They always say that.
You invited me.
I I have a problem with Ouija boards.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's not the board. It's a board,
Right.
right? That's all it is. It's a board with, you know, uh, letters and numbers and all that other stuff. The problem is, who are the people calling on?
Right.
So I'm calling on my mother, right? The demon will come and say, hey, yeah, I'm your mother, right?
Yes.
Now you're engaging in a conversation through that Ouija board, and it's an invitation.
Let
Get what
me
I'm saying?
Yes, let me just touch a little bit more on that subject. So, in your opinion, like when different ones of us are, investigating the paranormal, and we use the apps, or we use this equipment or that equipment, to me, that is just a more modern version of a Ouija board.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
That's just my opinion. That we're not doing the planchette, and but you're still trying to open up that communication
Right,
with spirits.
right.
And so, in your opinion, you feel like that could also be like maybe like an invitation too, or is it
And,
different
a
because?
lot of times what happens is if you start demanding their name, and as you know, because you're a paranormal investigator, there are millions and millions and millions of demons.
Right.
And it works on a hierarchical structure where you've got, and I always compare it to the military because I'm a veteran
Correct.
combat unit, right? Medic. And so at the bottom, you have all the soldiers, the millions. And then over that, you've got the sergeants, and you've got your lieutenants and your captains and your majors, and then your generals. And then at the very, very top, you have Satan, right?
Hmm.
And they love to say that their name is Satan. And a lot of times when we ask them, what is your name? They automatically say Satan, right? They
Right.
want to be tough, but it's actually the weaker ones that are hanging out. And the way I view it for paranormal investigators is I think that paranormal investigators are a little smarter than what people give them credit for.
Yes.
Because I know quite a few that bring protection with them, right? I mean, goodness gracious, some of them are like a store,
Right.
all the protection on. I was like, man, how do you even walk, with all this stuff? But
Right.
I think that seasoned paranormal investigators, know what to do.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They know immediately what to do. I don't want to on air give anybody an out. I don't want to give out your secrets, okay?
Hmm.
Because I don't want to encourage neophytes to go out there and do it without a mentor such as yourself that's a seasoned paranormal investigator. Otherwise, it's going to be dangerous.
Oh,
And
yeah.
doggone well as I do, they'll give you any name. You know
Oh,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. I do agree with that, because like you said, they all say Satan, and you actually wrote a book about demons, and demonology, if I remember correctly, because you did write, I believe, 7 books. And you wrote
I
one?
wrote what happened was I was writing a list of demonic names to give to Steve Shippey. This is what actually happened. I said, let's
Okay.
look up as many demonic names as I can. And next thing I know, I got like 3,500 names.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, let me put this in a little book so I can give to Steve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? Let me just throw it on Amazon because since it is a book, I don't market it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I threw in a couple of protection prayers. I've explained the jinn as
Mm.
the best that I could. I've explained the demonic structure. And, hopefully, if there are any neophytes out there, if they encounter any of these names, that they know what to do. I mean, I know that you know what to do if you encounter a demon. I mean, I know seasoned paranormal investigators know exactly what to do, right? It's,
Right.
not a very simple process where you just continue a conversation. And I have a problem with neophytes doing that, and they don't know what they're doing. And that is an invitation.
Definitely. Now, I did some research on you. When I was
Oh.
preparing for our talk, I didn't. I don't want to
I
show the
didn't do
pictures. No,
it.
I'm
It
just
wasn't
joking.
me.
Right. I did. I really appreciate because sometimes when people who are maybe not, I'm trying to think of the correct term, maybe versed or learned, and you hear the word witch, there's some things negative sometimes that are, that's brought to mind or whatever. But I really appreciated what you said on your website, and it says that you abide by a strong code of honor and ethical and strong morals, principles, and honesty and what is it? Forthrightness guides your conduct. And that really, in today's world, that really meant a lot to me because we have people that, they want to, just solely focus on the financial aspect of everything. And, and the proof is in the pudding. If it's if somebody is really sincere, or if and of course, people, of course, we charge for medium readings or whatever spells and whatever. I understand that, and that's not what I'm talking about. But when it's more the focus of financial gain than it is to actually help someone, then I think that that's when that there's a problem, and negativity, you know comes out. But I was really, like I said, it really meant a lot to me that you have a code that you live by. And is that from maybe you being a veteran, or is it a little bit of the nursing, or just everything kind of thrown in?
It probably my father,
Okay,
he
right.
was, you always do the right thing. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was 14, I've only stolen one time in my whole life, in my entire life. And I stole a pair of nylons. And I came home and I bragged about it. And I knew everybody at the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
He called the store and dragged me to the store, and all the sales lady, they were in a circle, and he put me in the middle of the circle, and I had to apologize to everybody that I stole the pair of nylons.
Right, but that was a lesson.
I never stole again. He was always, you only to do the right thing.
Right.
But, getting back to that, and I'm not here to push any books or anything. I'm just here to talk to
Sure.
you. But, I wrote that book, Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic, since we're on the subject of integrity. Okay. I wrote that book so that people can help themselves. And I just got sick and tired of when something goes wrong, or sequential events that are mishaps or misfortunes, that people believe they're cursed, right? And they call any pseudo metaphysical practitioner, oh, yeah, 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 you've been cursed. And, give me all this money
Mm-hmm.
and I'll remove the curse. I've had clients that pay metaphysical practitioners, another topic here, um, where they paid and these are pseudo metaphysical practitioners, and there's a heck of a lot of them out there since the internet age, right? And they pay the person to perform a spell, right? The spell doesn't work. Now they continue paying that person because they're terrified that person's going to put a spell on them. I know two people, they're not friends of mine, they're clients, that have immediately dismissed me because they've been paying their pseudo metaphysical practitioner on a bi-weekly basis. One man had to get a part-time job just to continue paying her.
Wow.
And, when I told both of them, listen, this is an old con job. It's a very, very old con job. Oh, no, no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Right.
I've been labeled the queen of cursing and crossing. I've been labeled that. I've written books on it. And when I was with another organization, I was their queen. And I don't talk about that. I don't threaten people. Um, a lot of times when people call me and they want me to perform a cursing spell for them, I don't do it. I rarely, rarely, rarely do them. And I also rarely perform spells for people because I prefer that the person try for themselves. Because let me give you an example. If you're in love with whomever, I'm not in love with that person, but you are, okay? If you perform a love spell and I perform a love spell, who's for you on your behalf? Whose spell is going to be stronger? It's obviously going to be yours
Right.
because you got that emotion, right? I don't have that emotion. So I always try to encourage my clients to perform spells, but by themselves first, and I show them how and I teach them how. And with removing a curse, okay, removing a curse, I always tell people, I can't remove it. I'm in Michigan, you're in California, you're in Ohio, you're in wherever. How can I remove that curse? Am I supposed to put you in a bathtub every single day for 13 days? Am I supposed to clean your house? Am I supposed to, I can't do it unless I live next door to you, right? Or in the same town. Lighting a candle on your behalf for $1,000 doesn't do a doggone thing. It's hard work, okay? Curses are not difficult to remove, okay? The only time we really, really need to worry, even with negativity, even with malicious entities, the only time that we really need to worry, where we really need to get outside help, is a demonic possession, right? Now you need professional help,
Right. Yeah.
but other than that, you can do it yourself. I can't do it for you here. I can't do an exorcism for you, without traveling there.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I wrote Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic, was we're talking about integrity and honesty. It won't cost you a fortune, most of the stuff you have in your kitchen, right? The problem is it takes work. I give people recipes. I tell them how to take care of things themselves. And I always say, if you've been cursed, do not worry. You belong to an elite club because since before written history, people were throwing curses at each other. If all these curses lasted forever, everybody would be dead. There would be no human race right now, right? So
Right.
don't worry, sit down, calm down, and just get a game plan and remove it.
Let me ask you
Same
something.
thing when you're facing malicious entities.
Hmm.
Can't show fear. Just put it in your mind that this is a alive person. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Put that in your mind and you're halfway there.
Let me ask you something, and I'm asking this sincerely because I do not know. And so I'm like, well, let me, ask someone who really does know. So, in spell cursing and spell casting or whatever, because, some spells aren't with good intent. You know, does it come back to the person if it's something that's not good? Does it come back on that person who does that spell or that curse?
Okay. So I've always, I've written Hoodoo Justice Magic, I've written Cursing and Crossing, I've written breakup stuff. I think it does come back if you're not justified. I really, really do. And that's why I always, always encourage people. For instance, we strongly believe that the book of Psalms
Hmm.
is actually a book of incantations. And Psalm 109 is the strongest cursing psalm there is. Okay, there's a few others, but that's the strongest one. You will hear rabbis say it, Jewish rabbis. I mean, we all know this. And when you're praying this psalm, which is in the Bible, I always say, explain the situation to God, explain it to him, and then ask him for justice, right? That's one way of doing it.
Hmm.
And if you're going to do all these spells for yourself and you're not justified, it will come back. It will come back to you. Now, I don't know if it'll come back threefold or, I'm not a Wiccan. I'm a conjure woman. Unfortunately, Steve had on the, Michigan Hell House, people think I'm a Wiccan because he had ordained witch, and
Ordained.
I told them
Yes.
there's no such thing as an ordained witch, and they did it. I'm not sure if Steve did it or somebody at the Travel Channel did it, but I've gotten a lot of criticism online that a Wiccan shouldn't be doing this. Well, I'm not a Wiccan. I'm a conjure woman, and our roots are Christianity. You know what I'm saying? So, um,
Now you
uh,
say Christianity. Now you have um, uh, Catholicism and Santeria, and you
yes.
follow you like I don't say mix them, but you kind of blend them both into
Well, the
yeah.
thing is that Santeria is an African derivative religion.
Hmm.
Okay. Hoodoo is an African derivative tradition.
Oh,
The
okay.
roots come from Africa. Okay. So it really isn't mingling. It's kind of the same thing because the roots are the same. The same with Palo. Okay. Palo is another what I call it, an ADR, African derivative religion. And so is Brujeria. That's an African derivative tradition. It has other influences. So for me, it's not mixing. It's kind of, we know where the roots are, right?
Right.
But, when the Africans came to Cuba, they hid their religion under Catholicism. And back in the olden days, because now that it's reached the United States, it's just gone awry. But back in Cuba, you couldn't even think about initiating into Santeria unless you were a Catholic. Once the religion evolved into Santeria. So with Hoodoo, when the slaves were brought here, there was a lot of Christianity that was forced into them, and that's how the Christianity got mingled in, and their African religion evolved into Hoodoo. And the same with everything else, like the voodoo from Haiti.
Hmm.
Now there's different types of voodoo. There's VUDU. There's, all these different types of voodoo. What they practice in New Orleans is voodoo, VOODOO. What they practice in Haiti is VODOU. Pronounced the same, but those little variations in the spelling tell us a big story, right? So, the Haitian voodoo, they have Catholicism. The New Orleans voodoo, which is a mixture of Haitian voodoo and hoodoo, right? They have Catholic influences. So there you go. And a lot of them have Christian influences, like Hoodoo is not predominantly Catholic, it's predominantly Protestant. Think about the South
Hmm.
where they were. So, yes, there were Catholics, but there were more Protestants.
Definitely. Um, I have really learned a lot, just in our short time together tonight. And it brings me to a quote that you said. It says, "We never stop learning. Life is, after all, a learning experience."
Absolutely.
And so I do appreciate you. I know you're really busy, and I do appreciate you taking the time, to be on the show with me. And I hope that you'll join us again at a later date.
Anytime. I've enjoyed our conversation. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I've enjoyed your tolerance of me when I went through HELL with that airline. You were my sounding board. People don't know this, but I had such a problem with American Airlines, and I'm calling Misty and I'm screaming at her. She has nothing to do with it. And I'm calling her and screaming and texting, and she was like my sounding board. And I really appreciate you being so understanding and patient with me.
That's okay. I was happy to do it for you. And like I said, I really appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. You take care.
You too. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I will see you next week on another episode of Quest. Have a good night.